cloud. There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Academic Senate meeting on today, Wednesday, March 10th. It's about 3:06 p.m. Thank you to everyone that could make it today, both senators and anyone from the SBCC community or the public. Calling this meeting to order. So item 2.2 are our Academic Senate community values. And so I always start each meeting by pointing one of these out to each other, to you. Today, I'd like to point out not only in the meeting where we create, why is this? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
You cut out for a bit, but I can hear you now.
Yeah, it said that it switched over to my AirPods and I'm like, I'm not using them. Okay, sorry. So let me just say this. Today, I'd like to call out number one, which is say it in the meeting, where we want to create an atmosphere for open, honest exchange. So for those of you that were there during the retreats this summer, remember that we did not use that idea of like collegiality or respect, because we were trying to get at that often our emotional reactions to authentic exchanges can be valuable. So remember that things aren't always going to be easy at the Senate table, but as long as we always are thinking about the facts and centering our students, especially those that have been traditionally marginalized and disenfranchised, then we know we're moving in the right direction. The other one I want to call out specifically for today's conversations is number 7, being mindful that each of us represents our division, but we also represent the faculty as a whole. So we wear different hats at this table, as I'm sure you all know. We are not only the quote professional voice of the faculty, we also have that idea of 10+1 and serving our students. So I just want us to all start there so that we have those things in mind. 2.3, Zoom meeting guidelines. They're there. We have relaxed them a bit since adopting them. So remember that we do public comment a little bit different at our meetings. So I'll explain that in a moment. But basically, everybody should be muted. And then should you have something to contribute to the meeting, you can raise your virtual hand, not your actual hand, because I can't see everybody all the time. You raise your virtual hand. And then when I call on you, you can speak. So approval of the agenda. So there are a few things since the publishing of the agenda that have been canceled, specifically 9.1 that Dr. Gavaskar was invited back to provide information about tutoring budget. She was unable to get us that information in time for 72-hour Brown Act guideline cutoff. So instead we switched gears, we canceled the presentation, and we have just asked for a written report, and I hope to have that to share out to the Senate by the March 31st meeting for you all. So that is why that item has been canceled. Other than that, I would like to call out the timed item of addressing social emotional needs around COVID. I would like us to, wherever we're at in our conversation on our agenda items, to kind of pause so that we can come to 8.2 so that we can get started on that work and hopefully come up with some kind of way forward with that. So that's why that's a timed item. Other than that, we'll be going in order of the agenda. So now we have arrived at item 3.1. So remember, we have changed our public comment guidelines away from the stricter policy that we had before. So let me explain this, because I know that there's some new people here with us today. So there is public comment. Literally anyone from the public, capital P, can come and present to the Academic Senate and have a 3-minute comment. So they can declare that now at the beginning of the meeting. You can either give your public comment now, or you can request to have your 3-minute comments go before one of our agenda items. The Santa Barbara City College community is not what the Senate considers the public, capital P. So throughout the meeting, and I often need friendly help with this, I will, as a reminder, I will call for public comment, especially during, before our discussion items or our action items, if people want to speak from the Santa Barbara City community. This includes senators, faculty, staff, everyone, before an agenda item. So you can do that, or you're also welcome to provide comment now. So only senators and our liaisons can contribute to the conversations during discussion items, but anyone from the Santa Barbara City College community can provide a public comment before an agenda item. So now I will ask for public comment by having people who want to provide one raise their virtual hand, and I already see one, which is Beth Taylor Shaw. So Beth, would you like to give your comment now, or would you like to do it later before an agenda item? What's your pleasure?
No, I would do it now.
Great. Okay, take it away, Beth. Thanks.
All right. Hi, everybody. I know many of you here. I am a classified staff member. I am here on behalf of both the CCG and the CSEA board to talk about solidarity, potential solidarity between faculty members and staff, particularly considering some of the events that have occurred lately around the issue of layoffs. I have actually had two different people say to me this week, one of them was a staff member and one of them was a faculty member, that they thought maybe there was or had been tension between faculty members and staff members. And both times I was a little bit taken aback because that has not been my experience as a staff member. My experience as a staff member is that it has been a pleasure for me to collaborate with faculty members, people who are trying to get their students into the writing center, people that I'm on committees with, and that there may have been individuals and moments where I did not feel entirely welcome in certain spaces, but for me, those have really been outliers, not the rule here. So my perspective is that we are all a part of the same enterprise, that we are all a part of the same ecosystem, that what is good for one group is good for another and ultimately is good for students. I would also suggest to you that supporting classified staff is a way to help address systemic inequity and systemic racism, in as much as classified staff is the group that consists of the largest proportion of people of color on campus, and that many of those people are in the lowest paying jobs, in as much as classified staff consist of a caste on academic campuses that is often seen as sort of lower status, so that anybody who is interested in equity, I think, should consider that they are interested in helping our cause. But then I would also suggest that we are a good ally for faculty, that we are both ultimately at the end of the day labor, that we do not expect the three layoffs that the board just voted on to be the end of things happening, that we have reason to join together to express our opinions about. For example, if cutting programs really is in the future, classified staff and faculty have reason to work together to say that they're not interested in that, or they're interested in it happening in a particular way. So I'm just here to invite you to support us, to let you know that we're interested in working with you, and that we encourage you to let your representatives know if that's how you feel about it as well. And that's my 3 minutes.
Beth, thank you so much for providing that comment for us today. Is there anyone else that would like to provide public comment at this time? If so, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any more virtual hands at this time being raised. Again, if you are from the Santa Barbara City College community, you are in to give public comments before we start discussion on any one of our items. Christina just asked me as the chair of the meeting, hey, are you going to do roll call? No, Christina, I'll do roll call voting. But because we started off in a really silly place, I forgot to mention that, yay, Christina's back, everyone, yay, woo! So I'm not gonna roll call, but I'd like to acknowledge that Christina's back with us. And clearly she's on top of it because she's making sure I'm on top of it as well. So Christina, we'll do roll call when a voting comes up. A vote comes up. I can't speak today. All right, so let me go back to my shared screen. Okay, Safari. All right, President's Report. Today I'm going to provide just a very brief President's update for you all. So a couple of things I want to share. Let's see, I've been attending the Credit for Prior Learning Brown Bag lunches this week. They have been incredibly informative. If you haven't had the chance to attend them yourself, there's 2 more, Thursday and Friday. If you would like that information, please reach out to me. I put it in front of the department chairs via email, so I know they have it as well. And if you can't attend any of them, they are being recorded and posted on the Chancellor's website. For those of you working through ways of finding opportunities to create opportunities, I'm being redundant. For those of you working through creating ways for credit for prior learning within your departments, if you're thinking about a particular way to do that, for instance, like via portfolio, or you think that there is a chance with you reviewing military transcripts or something like that, each of the days this week is dedicated to one of those areas. Also, I'd like to review all, I haven't sent out the invite for it yet, but we have again another town hall scheduled for faculty Monday at 2 p.m. And last time I had 2 items on the agenda and we got through 1, so I learned my lesson. And this time I'm only agendizing 1 thing, which is credit for prior learning. So that's going to be an opportunity again for faculty to come together, not only work through, you know, have a little bit of a space that's a little bit more relaxed than an academic senate meeting and just talk amongst ourselves, but also discuss different ideas, comments, concerns, everything to do with credit for prior learning. So please make sure you're there. I will record those sessions, but I'm not going to share out the recording publicly. You can contact me, or anyone that misses it can contact me to obtain that recording. All right, probably the other thing I want to talk with you all about is something that's agendized today, the Ntcc conversation. So I'll get there when we get to that discussion item 8.1. And the only other thing that I want to share is that I am really excited. I did not realize this before, even though James probably pointed this out to me, but apparently we have enough money in our budget to send all of our senators to the spring plenary in April. So I'm going to get that taken care of. I'm going to reach out to the senators and say, hey, do you even want to go to this? Do you even have time? Can you get release time or time away from your class to even do this? So perhaps not all of you are even interested in going, and if not, that's fine. But I do want to share out one thing that somebody said something to me that went to a ASCCC webinar literally today, and I won't out that person, but I will out their sentiment. I hope that's okay. That wow, you know, things coming from the state may be a lot different than what are happening here locally, and how illuminating that is. And I said, yes, that has been my exact experience at these state plenaries. And that's why I'm so excited to get all of Senate there so that everybody sees what is happening at the state level, has that opportunity for professional development and growth, and is just hearing those really amazing things coming down. And not only that, but like how, you know, there's 115 California community colleges, there's 115 ways of doing things. I got a lot of really like really cool ideas of how things are happening at other colleges, committee structures, interactions, interfaces, things like that. And then of course, I've mentioned this before, and I think it's important to remind you all again, that the theme for this plenary session is decolonizing our institutions, which I know has been a huge focus of ours of late. So just continuing that conversation, getting support and information from outside of our institution, I think is always a really good thing. So I look forward to offering that to the senators. And because there is an increase in the rate coming up very soon, I'm going to need senators to literally get back to me by this weekend so that I can get everybody that wants to go registered. The last thing I'll share out is that I have been working with a select few, including Senate steering and faculty and staff that particularly identify as BIPOC, for those of you that aren't familiar with that acronym, or maybe it's an initial, no, it's an acronym. Somebody else knows which it is. Black, Indigenous, people of color. We have created a small work group to faculty, staff, and administrators. We've created a small work group in an effort to center the experiences of BIPOC people on our campus in response to that state academic senate survey that I have talked about previously. The survey is due March 21st. So the way we're working through this is people are collecting responses on a shared Google document that we will then review together as a group. And then I have to be the one to submit it. So after we are in a place where everybody is satisfied with what's there, I will go ahead and submit that to the state academic senate. After we finalize that work, of course, I will have it to share at our Senate. So if there's something that we want to talk about or do or discuss or create an action item around, we can do so at that time. Excuse me. So if you're hearing this for the first time or you want to get involved in this effort, please reach out to me via email. Or if you know BIPOC faculty, staff, or administrators that you think should be involved, please have them reach out to me, or you can reach out to me yourself. Okay, so that concludes my president's report, item 5.1. Let's move on to item 5.2. That is for our Senate liaisons. Ruth, Pam, Michelle, Robin, Robbie, anything to share orally this week?
I'll get us started. There's quite a few things. I'm going to say what I say every time. Please make sure to read the report. Dr. Goswami provided a few updates to CPC, one of which was informing us that the board approved the elimination of an administrative position. In particular, it was the head of dual enrollment, that position. So because they're restructuring how that program is going to be run. And then, as was mentioned during public comment, he informed us also of 3 layoffs of classified staff. He also told us that for the HERF fund requests, that there was basically $11 million worth of HERF fund requests submitted. So that'll be interesting in terms of deciding how we're going to allocate those funds. And that will go to CPC for their input before he ultimately decides what to do with that. Another thing which I think is important, you got, I think, multiple emails, or at least one email, one from Hong, and then potentially if you're a chair, you would have got one from Rayanne on the committee webpage and templates that are provided. We've established a webpage where committees can essentially go and get a template for their agendas, and then so that we can have a centralized place or web page where we can have these available, so that the community could, we can improve communication, we can improve transparency, and then hopefully also provides or makes it easier for people to provide feedback because they're better informed. So please, please, please let everyone in your division know, because someone may not be, even just regular faculty members, even if they're not chairs, they need to know about this so that they can take this back to the committees that they serve on. What else did I want to say? CAC, they have finalized the draft for their handbook, so highly recommend that you utilize that if and when you go and either propose a new course or modify an existing course. That's about it for me.
Thank you, Ruth. And I just want to say that template for committees is not only really clean and gonna really allow for that transparency call that we've heard for so many times, but it also, for those of you that don't like a cramped inbox, it's also going to save us on emails because people are going to know where to go and find information. So if you're on a committee and the committee is not using it, maybe give a little elbow nudge. Thanks, Ruth. Let's see, Pam, Robin, Michelle, Robbie. Am I missing anyone? I don't think so.
Anything spectacular, it's all in the report.
Cool.
Same here.
Yep, I think everything's in the report, but I would reiterate what Ruth always says, please read it.
Awesome. And Michelle, are you out there? I assume you are.
I am in the report.
Okay, everything's in the right. Good. This gives me 2 seconds to say something that I forgot to share with all of you. And oh God, I forgot it again. Okay, I'm going to let Pamela speak and then I'll come back to it. Pamela, Dr. Ralston, item 5.3.
Thank you, Ray. I don't really have a very detailed report. I just wanted to kind of touch base on a number of ongoing projects and efforts to move the college ahead as we start to think about coming back to campus. So on a weekly basis, we have had a technical team meeting to think about preparing classrooms, technology, resources, and PPE for the effort to come back. Our next step is the receipt of a full HVAC assessment of all the buildings and rooms on our main campus, as well as the Orphala Center, the cosmetology building, and Wake and Shot. So the focus first is on the main campus. That assessment will let us know where we need to focus some energy and resources to make sure HVAC is working effectively, as opposed to putting buildings offline and not using them because they're not working well. We'll be mapping out the classrooms that faculty want to teach in alignment with space and rooms and class capacity. And as I'm often saying, none of us went to graduate school for this, except maybe epidemiologists, but they probably didn't also go with a higher education focus. So we are trying to figure out how best to serve students and one another as we go forward. So there's been a lot of effort on that. I got a chance to take the first glance at the HER funding request. So you, colleagues of yours, many people across campus did a really great job. I think there are 148 separate items about what we need to use those resources for in order to serve ourselves and our students. That money has set aside the 2.8 million for direct student aid. We're setting aside additional money in case no extra funds come and we need to support students. So for the fall, so we want to be able to use as much of that directly into the hands of students as possible, along with these infrastructure pieces to make things safe and thinking technologically about how we can best serve faculty while they're delivering online instruction or face-to-face instruction. So right now our focus is getting ready for the summer, the very few number of courses proposed on campus in the summer, using that as the baseline as we prepare for the course offerings that'll be coming in the fall. And so we're just kind of thinking through and working on those pieces. Are there questions about that before I move on? I was thinking there might be. I see hands up, but I'm not sure if they were hands up from earlier or not. So no, I think Ray, are you managing?
Yeah, so either, yes, I am. Patricia either has a question for you or our liaisons, either way, it's okay. I just want to remind everybody that our time for questions right now is clarifying questions only, because
about what I'm talking about.
Right,
yes, okay,
right, because this can't turn into a discussion item. Okay, so as long as we all understand that. Patricia, Anna, and then Ellen.
Yes, in our, this has to do with the liaison reports around the Student Equity and Achievement Committee. There's a statement that SBCC received a college level brief of SBCC's student equity plan, as well as the statewide report. My question is that something that we could look at? Did they literally provide feedback on our equity plan? And just to remind
Yes.
people, in the fall of 2019, there was considerable effort done with around this plan and its revision, and a commiserate amount of controversy. So my question is, can we, it's not clarifying, but my question is, are we going to get a look at that? Thank you.
Patricia, so sorry to jump in, Pamela, but Patricia, I'll let you know that the C committee asked the same thing to be allowed to review it.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll just put a timepiece on that just dropped. And so we're really excited about working our way through that information, sharing it out more widely, and then responding to the feedback that came. I will now make this look like it's part of my report. The state has begun doing a better job responding to materials that we send them. So historically, we sent stuff up and it went in kind of a vacuum. And now they're working, and that's part of Chancellor Oakley's effort to really be responsive to concerns about equity, and seeing that across a lot of the work that we do, not just something like the equity report, but to respond back. So responses back to work in AB 705, responses back to C efforts and reporting. All of those things are relationships that are kind of going up to the state and coming back for really the first time. We used to even ask questions and not get information and feedback. So we are seeing a much more responsive turnaround with that, and that's been really good. I'm going to pause here and see if any of those hands are anything for me.
I
Yes,
think they, hold on, Ruth. Senator Garcia, Senator Carey, and then Senator Morales.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, because I know we are talking a lot about HVAC, and wondering if there's also discussion around like the plumbing stuff. I've read a couple of pieces on lots of concerns about big buildings being left empty and that being major health concerns. So I just wanted to make sure that that is being discussed as well.
I'm going to answer specific questions about this, and then I'm going to also tell you, I'm working to try to get us to a point where we're going to do a big town hall on these kinds of questions. So always ask me anything that you want to know. Send me an email if I'm not here with you and you want to know something. I'll answer these questions, and we need to have a big conversation across our whole college. So that is coming. And a lot of those concerns about Legionnaire's disease. So we were given direction about turn off your fountains, make sure that people are going through buildings and making sure that toilets are flushing and faucets are working. We've turned off water faucets in preparation of that. And so before we come back, we'll do big water testing and make sure that everything's safe, and we're being really attentive to that. This is an opportunity for us to take a very old campus and think about not just in terms of COVID, but a lot of these things kind of relate back to each other. So we're trying to work through all of that as we can. Thanks, Anna.
And there are people on campus now using various.
Right, flushing various things.
Yeah,
I would like to remind you that you're not supposed to be actively on campus very often.
No, but there are staff that are here on on a needed basis.
I just wanted to use the opportunity to remind people.
So
and
again,
then fill out the healthy roster if you're going to campus.
Yes. So again, clarifying questions only, please. Ellen, Ruth, Robbie.
Yeah, you mentioned that the classrooms are being mapped out for use of those spaces in returning to face-to-face instruction. I'm wondering whether or how that's happening for academic support spaces like the library and the LRC and student services spaces.
Great, Ellen, thanks for correcting me. I mean to say every building, every room, everything.
Thank you.
All space. And Dr. Goswami in his email this week sent out a note that made it suggest that some things would be coming back earlier. We're working through the process. That he used a big general term about services. We're working through when and how best to serve students, how best to bring our ed support services, our counseling services back on campus. So that we're not going to turn that on a dime. That's going to be kind of an incremental pull back in. Thanks.
Okay, so Ruth and then Robbie.
Governor Newsom allocated $100 million to go towards community college for students as emergency relief funds. Was SBCC allocated some of that? And if so, how much? And also, how quickly will our students see that money?
You broke up a little bit right after you said Governor Newsom allocated, and then I want to make sure I'm answering the right piece.
$100 million. How much SBCC is getting? I know it's only for students, and how quickly our students would get those funds.
We have a variety of financial resources that can be deployed to students in an emergency basis. And so I'm not exactly sure what the amount is for the Newsom piece, but we are working through a couple of components we needed to do that were bureaucratic around equity dollars under AB 943 that required an additional component to our equity plan to be able to use some C dollars in an emergency basis. We have been adding to the pot of emergency resources from every level. And so I'll find out what our share of any pie would be at a state level. And then we'll be using the process, most likely, if it comes in a big chunk like that, we'll use the process that we've been using for the federal dollars. It's worked really effectively, and we felt really fair about that.
Okay, Robbie?
Thanks. You said that if there were questions about things like HVAC testing and plumbing testing and all that, that we should email you in preparation for this town hall. Is that a directive that I should pass on to my constituents? Do you want the whole campus emailing you?
What I'd like is for everybody to come to my house, actually, and ask me that question while standing on my porch. So let's do that instead. No, I think, Robbie, I'm really glad you asked that question, because that is not what I meant to say.
Okay.
What I meant to say is, individually, if you're starting to worry about things or you have questions, let me know by sending me an email. In preparation of the town hall, I didn't connect those two. What I'm saying is we need to have a town hall where everybody can get their questions addressed and answered in a way that looks a little bit like this, where more people can be present with us. And I am part of a weekly meeting where we're addressing technical concerns about returning to campus. So anytime you send me something, I'll carry it. You can also work with your deans, which might be even more direct, because they might be thinking about, in your case, a specific lab related question, and your dean might be more able to get that where it needs to go. But what I really want to stress is you shouldn't be worrying about something and feeling like someday I'll get an answer to this if I land in the right meeting. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you have questions or concerns that you need to get fielded, that's my job. Get in touch with me. I'll work to find out what the answer is. And I can carry those concerns in another way. We will be sharing the HVAC report out to the college. That will be a college response where we let people know, here's what we learned about the air at our college. So we want people to feel safe about coming back. We want to make sure that we're being held accountable to making sure everybody's safe to come back. Let me slip in there, if you didn't read your email this week from Luz, Cottage Hospital is taking appointments for COVID vaccine, and I got one. I'm really excited about it. So try whatever mechanism you can if you're interested in getting vaccinated to get vaccinated. The more of us who get vaccinated, the better off everybody is. So ask me questions if you have them, send me an email. We will make sure that we're starting to get more of this information out in the world as we go forward. Thanks, Robbie. Don't send anybody to the house.
Okay, so I have two follow-ups. I remembered what I was meaning to tell you all. So what I was meaning to tell you all, what I wanted to remind you all, what I wanted to bring to your focus is the following. As always, I encourage all of you to attend, watch board meetings. Specifically, if you find yourself there this week in solidarity with our staff, I would like to highlight an item for your attention, which is BP 5012. 5012. This is the board policy pertaining to international students. There are what I would consider significant changes being proposed to that BP. I think if you read it with a lens of understanding some of the conversations happening about our international students at the board and in the larger Santa Barbara City community, you may find yourself concerned about it. At least I know I did. So if that's the case, I would encourage you to use your voice, speak your mind, and elevate your concerns in a number of ways. So with that, I would like to go back to our agenda. Let me take a look. I believe we are now on to what? Why is my computer being so slow? Just go there. Here we go. Is this Academic Senate or is this
5.4?
5.4. Thank you. Have I said that I'm glad you're back, Christina? Because I'm really glad you're back. Oh, and before I forget, one more thing. It was communicated to me that the C committee did share out that report that was being discussed via email after the meeting. So should that report be of question or concern, it sounds like that it was shared out. At least that's what was communicated to me. Okay, item 5.4, right. So for this week, we do not have any items that were requested from a non-senator steering person. However, I would like to point out that 2 of our items this week, item 8.1 and 8.2, are agendized on our schedule today because of this method of requesting the Senate to think about things. So please remember that's there, share it out, remind people. It is a really great anonymous way for items to be taken to the Senate through outside of the traditional methods and governance structure. Okay, our consent item agenda. Item 6.2. The way I understand resolutions go is that you resolve to do something, you vote on it, the body says, yeah, we're going to do this, and then hopefully those things happen. Because we have, in my opinion, done a number of the things from our resolution from the fall, which I'll remind you was to include more voices at the Senate table. I have provided a status report update, and should the Senate body agree with my status report of our resolution here, I would like us to include it on our consent agenda today for approval so that it can be put into our permanent record to say, not only did we say we were going to do this, but we did this. So if you haven't already read through it, I just want to make sure that you are seeing it now. Basically, I'm saying that even though I need reminders, I do ask for public comments throughout the meeting. And I am trying to support people coming to the Senate and speaking their mind. I also have held a faculty town hall in February. I'm holding another one in March. And as long as that practice continues, we'll recommend this resolution be deemed complete and addressed. Now, we can handle this a number of ways. If you agree with my status report, we can make a motion to leave it on today's consent agenda and then approve today's consent agenda. Should you want to discuss this as a group and change it and say, no, I don't agree with this, or throw it out completely, the way that would happen is that you would make a motion to move this item to the discussion. And so it would go as an item 8.3 in our agenda. Another thing that we can do, and then we can discuss it and update it and approve it there. Or another alternative is that we can remove it from the consent agenda, agendize it, discuss it, and then say, you know, I agree with this report, but we're not quite there yet. I want to see how things go for this semester. You know, we don't want our Senate president pulling a fast one on us and canceling further town halls and not allowing public comment anymore. And we just want to make sure that that continues to happen. So there's a number of ways that this can go. So I will now turn it over to the Senate to say, what is your pleasure? And I already see a hand up. Ellen Carey.
I have what I hope is a clarifying question.
Sure.
If we were to vote to accept this now, is there a mechanism for it coming back in future semesters, like to sort of do future status reports in future semesters, or what would happen to it?
So, you know, the State Academic Senate, I was taking this status report from like how they do things, and some of their resolutions do have 2 updates. So perhaps if you wanted to formalize it coming back to the Senate, if somebody wanted to create a motion where they say, you know, we can, you know, I move to approve the consent agenda with the understanding that this resolution will come back for another status report on, you know, end of the spring semester or early next fall. I also want to point out that while resolutions are formalities and we can absolutely do that, that I am going to be the Senate president for only a period of time. My term is up next spring, and so each Senate has their own flavors and way of doing things. So while this was something that we resolved to do as a body, I would also encourage future Senate memberships, Senate presidents to revisit this and see if it works for them, update it, change it, something like that, right? So this was a resolution that we adopted for us, and it does exist in perpetuity, but that doesn't mean that future Senates will continue this practice, right? Like this resolution is not in our bylaws, right? It's not in an academic, or excuse me, an administrative procedure somewhere. Does that make sense? So, you know, again, if you want this to come back, we can do this one of 2 ways. Make a motion to say, I want this back at the end of the spring semester or the fall or next spring, or just approve it now and it's good, or whatever the pleasure is. So where are we at? Are we moving this to, so am I entertaining a motion to move this to discussion? Am I entertaining a motion to accept the consent agenda? Where are folks feeling? Michelle?
I move that we accept the consent agenda and move so that we could kind of mark it as done. I think that this resolution has created some good change, and I think it would be easy to see if we weren't doing it. So that's my 2 cents.
Why do I have the feeling that I'm going to hear about it if we don't keep doing it? Oh God, jokes are so hard over Zoom. Why was I the only one laughing at that? Okay. We have a motion on the table to approve
It's
this.
because we're all muted. You just can't hear us.
Oh God, you should hear my lame jokes for my classes too. It's just like thud every time, thud. So yeah, there's a motion on the table to accept this update and the resolution and mark it as done. But I also heard, and maybe I was incorrect, part of that was that we would continue these practices and not extinguish them, disregard them, stop doing them, however you say that.
I'll second it.
Great. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Robin.
Sorry, it was me, Robin.
All right. Coolness. All right. So roll call vote for this. So again, for our consent agenda item, you can vote yes, no, or abstain, which is a non-vote. Cornelia.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Ellen.
Yes.
Jenny.
Yes.
Patricia.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Dee Dee.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Robbie. Robbie.
Yes.
Ruth.
Yes.
Tara.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Great. Good hearing you, Russell. Trisha
Yes.
and Anna.
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you for that. We will now have, we have now accepted that update, and our resolution will live on our Academic Senate website. We need to get on that. And then we can all revisit it. And again, there is a commitment to continue this, even though we just technically marked that as done. All right, quick information item before we move on. There is a work group for equity focus for dual enrollment / early college. So at this time, Jennifer Hamilton is serving on this committee, as well as Dr. Melissa Menendez. So those two are serving on the committee. Should you want to serve on this, this is specifically, the information is given here. This is specifically to think about our K through 12 dual enrollment programming. If you are interested in this and you have not been part of it yet and you want to be, please just email me. Very easy to add you on. All right, so now the time is now 3:51 p.m. and we are going to move on to discussion item 8.1, which is an item that not necessarily directly came from the request last week, but remember that, or not last week, our previous Senate meeting. But it came from the request to agendize information after the faculty town hall. There was an anonymous request to agendize the NTCC committee function, structure, and what's happening there. Just as a tiny bit of background information, the reason why this is being discussed in front of faculty and in these different spaces, and why it's been agendized on the Academic Senate meeting agendas the last couple of times, is because Dr. Goswami has suggested $125,000 adjustment down in non-teaching compensation stipends. So before I provide any more background information, I will now call for a public comment period for anybody from the Santa Barbara City College that would like to make a comment about this item. Should you want to make a comment, you can raise your virtual hand in the participants field and indicate that you'd like to speak for a moment. Okay, so I am not seeing any public comments being requested for this item. So let's dive in a little bit more. So please allow me to set this item up a little bit more, and then we will open this item up for discussion. So last time we saw a request to agendize, quote, NTC committee on our Senate agenda. And steering is always, let's say, a little bit worried or a little bit focused on how do we make a productive conversation at the Senate. We all know how cramped our time is together. We all know how often we run over and things like that. So how can we best package something for the Senate so that we can get through something and come to some sort of resolution on an item? So I hope that you did your homework this week. There is a number of items that were provided as attachments here, specifically the steering recommendations. Now, I want to point out that these Senate steering recommendations are here for the Senate to consider. Should the Senate want to, we could adopt it and expand them from Senate steering recommendations to all Senate recommendations. But these recommendations are going to the EVP. This is an EVP committee that is made up of 4 faculty members and 4 deans. I've heard this committee referred to as a quasi-negotiating committee, meaning that non-teaching compensation stipends, which includes department chair stipends, coaching stipends, and a number of, let's say, leadership stipends that faculty receives, are handled by this committee. I provided not only the AP I linked to, excuse me, the current AP on our agenda so that you can see the language there. I also provided the Ntcc Handbook. Now, what I would like to point out about the handbook is that it is woefully out of date, in my opinion. I believe it's from either 2005 or 2006, and it references district policies. District policies have not existed since around 2009. So we're really talking about items and processes that are severely out of date. The other thing I want to point out to you is that there is a question about, and you may have, I hope, you've already read it. There is a question about the current makeup of the committee. If you read the current AP, it specifically says that the Academic Senate president convenes the meetings, and then there are 2 Senate faculty appointees, and then the faculty association president. So that is what our AP currently says. The last time we looked at this AP, it was back in 2016. I provided the meeting minutes back when that was approved, just so you know that that was the meeting that they were approved, that the changes for that AP were approved in. However, that AP existed on at least 3 Senate agendas throughout May, the summer, as well as August. So you can look at the revisions that were being discussed by the Senate then, and you can see that the NTCC considerations were edited and reviewed by the Senate then, back in 2016. So through this background and research, it was found that we are not currently operating the committee according to our current AP. So the first recommendation coming out of Senate steering is to bring the membership of the committee back into alignment with the AP. Another thing that is being recommended from Senate steering is that negotiations, money, compensation is not under the purview of Senate's 10+1. And so why do we have such a heavy-handed role in this process? I would also like to point out that, again, I've already mentioned the district policies, but also that the Faculty Association collective bargaining agreement, which expired or ran out, or I don't know the right word there, ended in 2018, that we still go by, also refers to these out of date, non-existent district policies. So a number of these positions under this purview of this committee do not have written job descriptions for. It's some people's opinions that it's not really well understood how you, let's say, obtain these jobs. In some departments, it's very open and very obvious. In other departments, it's just the department chair gets them all, and so on and so forth. So there are some questions about practices and transparencies around that. And there is currently no annual audit of those stipends. It seems as though from the time that some of them were initiated, they haven't been revisited and looked at. Also, I just want to point out that from my work with the State Academic Senate and reaching out about offering a tech review around this item and conversations, it was pointed out to me, and I think this is also the persuasion of people around our campus, that the Academic Senate absolutely has a role in determining non-teaching compensation, but only the piece of whether or not something pedagogically makes sense and if it is truly supporting students. Outside of that, the Academic Senate really should not have a role in here. So one suggestion that came from the Academic Senate steering body was that perhaps we can delegate this concept of, okay, there are these stipends, are they pedagogically sound, to a committee that we already have, that we already utilize, or perhaps create a new committee, although I think we can better employ our current committees to do this work. Also, an advantage of that I'd like to point out is just that by doing that and having it be a Senate committee, there would be divisional representation. Currently, there is not divisional representation on the Ntcc committee, and there are very few faculty committee members. There's very few members of the committee in general. So there's some immediate and more long-term recommendations coming from the Senate steering. These are here for us to discuss, deliberate, perhaps make endorsements, perhaps offer changes. But this is what the Senate steering came up to use as a starting point for today's discussion. Jamie, go ahead. I'm gonna answer Franny. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, I'm Jamie. As you know, I'm not a senator. I'm the FA liaison to the Senate. And I just wanted to say a few things about these recommendations, and then I wanted to ask several questions about them as well. First of all, I just wanted to let everyone know the FA thinks that the discrepancy between the current makeup of Ntcc and the AP language is because of a transcription error that is a historical thing. As Rayanne said, the language in our collective bargaining agreement references the district policy. It says former district policy, and the reason why we do that is we don't want to reference an AP which can be changed easily in our contract. The current makeup, not the AP makeup, but the current makeup is also listed on the EVP website and on the Senate website as well in your bylaws. And this has gone on for a decade. So we think that people just didn't notice this transcription error when things were moved from district policies to APs. But that's doesn't really matter. I think the FA is comfortable in the interest of collegiality and getting work done with going with the AP as currently written. The FA board has not met since this has been brought to our attention. We are meeting a week from Friday, and we will undoubtedly discuss this. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. That's one thing I wanted to say. One other thing I wanted to say that'll lead into a couple of my questions. In terms of the cuts to stipends, I want to make sure everyone understands that the FA is only opposed to cutting stipends if the work that those stipends are attached to has not gone away. And we are worried that the accelerated time frame for cutting stipends sort of imposed on this faculty body by the president will result in just that because of the speed these cuts have to be enacted, that some work that is current will not be compensated for. So I want to ask about, I have a bunch of questions, and then if I can take all my answers at the end, that would be great. In terms of the timeline here, you reference a timeline going to the end of 2021, 2022, but I'm not sure that's what you mean about the 125,000 in cuts. In 3A, you say develop job descriptions for every non-teaching position receiving a stipend, and then those cuts you envision happening right away, I suppose.
Yes.
And then going on, you're talking in 3C more about program change and involving P&R somehow. So I just wanted to ask about what the timeline you envision going forward. I also want to say in terms of number 2 that we are in support, the FA, I believe I can say that is, I'm sorry, in part of your proposal number 2 about financial conflicts of interest, that the FA is in support of course, eliminating those. But we noticed there's no exception for department chairs. And I know that those were not envisioned as part of the $125,000 worth of cuts. So I'm wondering what, if there are any exceptions going to be made, given that several members of Ntcc are, I believe, chairs, and so receive those stipends. And I guess under this proposal would have to leave the committee. Another thing I want to say, and I don't explain this to be condescending because I just learned about this in the last couple of days getting ready to speak with you all today, but there's 3 pieces to these stipends. There's the job description, which is fully Senate because it's heavily pedagogical. There's the monetary compensation, which is already in our contract. It's in our collective bargaining agreement. These are negotiated amounts depending on your leadership role. But in the middle, there's the workload issue. And these are sort of workload multipliers or weights, right? Like essentially when you compute a stipend, it's how many full-time, like for department chairs, how many full-time faculty, how many part-time faculty, each of these gets a weight. And so what I understand from 3B is transferring this workload portion from NTCC to our contract. And that's fine. Workload is a delegated item from the FA to the Senate. If the Senate says, we don't want to do this anymore, it is incumbent upon the FA, it is our obligation to negotiate that. We don't really have any say in that. All I really would ask is that this would be the third workload issue that has been moved back to the FA from Senate. And the first two are the TLU limits and evaluations. And those have both caused in the last year a great deal of work at the negotiating table and for our evaluation work group. This is ongoing work. And that has come at significant expense to the FA. So I would ask, and I came to Senate before asking this, and some people, including the Academic Senate President, Ray, you were in support of this request of moving TLUs from the Senate to the FA, but the Senate as a body was not. So I would ask again that if you want the FA to take over this workload issue, I mean, we would have to, but we would ask you to include some moving of TLUs to compensate us for that work. I also just want to ask about the role of P&R, what exactly you envision for that. 3C is somewhat vague, and I don't quite understand that part of the proposal. Thank you. I know I took a lot of time there.
Okay, Jamie, I need to, before I can start answering your questions, and you might have to re-ask some of them because I didn't quite catch them all. The first one is I thought I heard you say something and I just really don't understand it. So I'd like a little clarity around this. Did you say that the collective bargaining agreement includes district policies that no longer exist so that you all don't reference APs that currently exist, but that can be edited?
So
said?
Our, and this is way before my time, like a lot of this is before all of our time at this body.
Well, wait a minute, hold on, before you say that.
Yeah.
Do you mean, so I referred to the collective bargaining agreement that ended in 2018. So that's not before your time, right?
No, I mean, when that's true, but I'm not sure when this language was put into our collective bargaining agreement. Remember, the collective bargaining agreement is not written wholly anew, right? There are changes made into the new contract.
Of course, but I guess there is some updating as you all go along and as you so the last one is dated. So the most recent one you all have produced is 2016 to 2018. So so that's the most recent one that ended or whatever the language is in 2018. So what you're saying is that you edited other parts, but you didn't edit that. But also, I guess my question is, district policies ended around 2009. That's when our district moved to APs and BTVs. So I guess what you're saying is from 2009, whatever CBA existed then, through 2018, that piece was never updated and edited, correct?
As far as I know, correct. And the reason why is because it's an easy way to have to just say the NTCC committee is structured like this. Look back at the former policy because that is fixed in stone.
But it's not. We don't have access to it. I literally haven't been able to find it. So I'm questioning this because I'm a little bit concerned because we are beholden. You know, what you're saying is the contract is beholden to some policy that literally the district doesn't acknowledge anymore. Do you see what I'm getting at there?
Sure.
So like you're referencing this policy that literally doesn't exist. So I don't know what to do about that.
And well, that's part of the reason why the FA is saying, you know, this is a historical accident, if you will. And certainly getting that into the contract was before my time, because I've never heard about any of this. That's why the FA is saying we are fine with accepting the AP language as it is and changing our contract to reflect that description of the makeup for NTCC, which would be 3 positions from the Senate and 1 position from the FA. We are comfortable doing that.
So how come, so I guess this is neither here nor there. I'm just like, you know, in 2016, the AP was updated. The literal paragraph where that's described was updated. There were FA members on the Senate at that time. And so what you're saying is nobody caught it. And what you're also saying is that nobody caught updating this in the collective bargaining unit either. So
I guess I'm saying that I have no knowledge of that. I don't know of, so there's no FA representative on the AP committee, certainly. So I don't know how the negotiating team would know to update this.
The AP didn't go through the AP committee. So just for like everybody, because this is constantly like confused.
Yeah.
AP is academic policies. And our procedures are APs also, but they're administrative procedures. So the Senate can review APs or we can delegate them to our AP committee. But just because those 2 acronyms are the same doesn't mean it went to AP. It was actually at the Senate tables. My son really needs to go pee, but I just want to, Elroy, please hold. But what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter if there's an FA representative on AP, because whether it was addressed there or not, it came to the Senate and there is an FA liaison. So, and that was 3 Senate agendas.
I guess my larger point is that's 2016, it's 2021. We're saying we are comfortable abiding by the current language of the AP and giving up 1 of our representatives on NTCC. So that's hopefully is enough information on that front. I have no other information as to how this historical accident happened or the exact timeline.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate that. Luckily, we can rely on past meeting minutes and things like that to say, hey, we did look at this at that time, and hey, the Senate did approve it, and hey, it's existed on our website since then. So lucky you have those minutes.
But also I'm going to point out that in your own Senate bylaws right now, the committee makeup of NTCC is 2 and 2, not 3 and 1.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess, you know, for what it's worth, you know, APs outweigh bylaws, and then, you know, BPs outweigh APs, and then laws outweigh all of this, right? So,
I'm just saying there's some huge, you know, decades long confusion about what's going on here, and people in various roles have obviously made mistakes, and we have not updated things. Let's just talk about what we're going to do going forward.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to get into the details of this. I guess I just wanted to highlight some of this. And absolutely, but I do think it is kind of, we do want to think about how we talk about this, because I do know that the FA, as a general body, is very strict about language. I've experienced this myself, and I think other people can also admit that that's true. So, you know, I'm just finding it very hard to navigate a conversation where we're saying, well, that's not what we meant in the AP, because I think the FA wouldn't want to open that door, right? Because now the administration can say, oh yeah, it says that about faculty evaluations, but that's not what we meant. And here's the historical proof of that, right? So I think we need to be very careful. What our AP currently says is this.
You know, and that's exactly one of the reasons why we're saying, well, this is what the AP says, right? So if the FA, you know, we go by language, let's go by language.
Okay.
That's why we decide, let's just be gracious about this and just go for it.
Agreed. So Cornelia, you're speaking as the senator for the business division, correct?
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know if you wanted to go through my other questions or save those if I should
Yes.
follow up. I don't know.
Yes, let's go through your other questions. Absolutely, because perhaps they will clarify questions for other people. So can you remind me, because I was really worried about the district policy was.
In your proposal, part 3A, the time frame for the current $125,000 worth of cuts, is that changed or is that unchanged?
Okay, so in the interest of transparency and honesty, I'm going to say the following. I have not found the NTCC committee to be efficient in that work. Our deadline for coming up with a proposal by the end of March.
I want to get a picture of something.
Okay, go grab your blue camera.
I don't know where it is.
I'm not sure either. I think it's in the living room. I'm so sorry, everyone. So we have one more meeting left before Dr. Goswami's deadline of finding this $125,000. There is a current plan that the committee is thinking about and talking about, which would get us there. I can't get it right now. Please give me one more moment, okay? So it's possible that at the next meeting, the committee reviews that and moves forward with it. However, if we don't, Dr. Goswami has already given us one extension around this work. I have tried very hard to provide urgency in this work that, hey, if we don't do this, it's going to be done for us. And we haven't been able to get there. So what I'm trying to say is this proposal is outside of that timeline. That timeline is happening much more quicker than what this proposal is. What we're trying to say with this proposal, and by the way, I had very little to do with this proposal. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's actually way more of steering. It was all steering, not me. I was momming at the time, as you all can believe. This is just rethinking about the current work of the committee because we weren't able to find these cuts, adjustments, that's a politer word. Yeah, this is like, hey, what can the committee do now? Here's what we're thinking long-term for the change in processes. Okay. So that was one of your questions. What were your other questions, Jamie?
I'll just do one more. I don't want to dominate. I know other people have their hands up. I guess the idea of the workload, is it the intention that the Senate wants to undelegate this chunk of workload and have the FA take back over it? That's coming up with the workload factors by which you take part of your job description and translate that into a number, essentially, that then takes the part the FA already negotiates, the monetary compensation, essentially the pay rate per unit in that number. Is that the intention here in 3B, that you move, like, you guys have 2/3 of it, we have 1/3 of it, and you want us to have 2/3 of it and you to have 1/3 of it?
Yeah, sure. You can think of it like that. As somebody who is now intimately aware and have worked with these factors, I would really like to see these factors be retired. I do not find these factors to be easily and in an unbiased way, in an equitable way, be quantified. If you read the factors, it talks about, like, factor three or factor 4, I can't remember which, is about assessment. But it doesn't ask how many students are being assessed, how many times a semester, and how much that takes. It just says, tell us about your assessment. So reading that factor as a quantitative person, it is not obvious to me how you quantify information coming from faculty to quantify it, and that's what it does. And so wherever this lands, let's say this stays within Senate control, I would really like to see a much more obvious, equitable, and quantifiable process be created. So I hear you. This is work that the FA, if it goes this way, Jamie, this is work that the FA is going to take on. I hear you. I I think I'm in a different place than I was when I supported, compensation being shifted from the Senate to the FA, because you referenced the previous work that we have delegated to you, and as a faculty body, we haven't seen the outcomes of that, right? So there was a commitment for faculty, Senate and FA Association to work together on evaluations. The Senate hasn't been looped in on that at all. You took over TLUs. We still don't have a resolution of that. So I'm in a much different place now than I was when we said, hey, let's provide some TLUs or something. So I don't get a vote at this table. I'm just the Senate president, but you did reference my previous support of it when I did get a vote. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I'm in a different place with that.
Okay, thank you.
So Cornelia.
Thank you. There's a few comments I would like to make. The first one, I would like you, Ryan, you were asking that you were not able to find the district policy 1913, and it is actually in the Ntcc Handbook, which is linked to today's agenda.
Okay, no, what I meant was that this district policy does not exist for the district. So it's not that I can't find it. It's that it doesn't exist for the district. Like when you go to the district webpage, it's like, hey, we're governed by APs and BPs, and here they all are. There is no like reference to district policies anywhere except for in these outdated places.
Okay. All right. The other comment I have is, and that I make this as a member of the negotiation team who actually negotiated that.
But that's not your role at this table, Cornelia. I'm sorry.
But I am a senator. I think I can speak. And if there's information I can provide the Senate, you want to tell me that the Senate doesn't want to hear this?
I just want to remind everybody that you have an FA liaison, which is Jamie. And at this table, like all the other senators at this table, you represent the business division, and you were elected by the business division to represent faculty at the Senate table. So I know in past Senates, you have spoken on behalf of the FA, but that was a different time.
So you do not want me to share important information, which I happen to have because I have two roles. That is true. That is correct. I am.
No, you only have one role at this table. You do not have two roles at this table. At this table, you are the business division senator. So I guess what we're asking here is, do we want somebody that is a senator to speak outside of their role as a senator at this table? And I feel very uncomfortable with that.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I am a faculty member, I'm a senator, and as you said before, I am representing the faculty body as a whole. And as a faculty member of Santa Barbara City College, I do read the Faculty Association contract, and I did read that the wording in that contract says specifically the reference to the former district policy. The word former is there. So it appears that this Faculty Association contract, which I as the faculty member read, very much is aware of the fact that the district policy is no longer active, but does reference the content of this policy. I just wanted to share this.
Okay, but you do agree that it is a former district policy that the district is no longer beholden to. Is that correct?
I just shared the observation as a faculty member of this college.
I didn't question your role in sharing that. I'm asking, is this a district policy that no longer exists for the district, as in Santa Barbara City College?
Madam President, could I please once in a while finish a sentence?
I hope that we can keep hyperbole to a minimum today, but sure.
Thank you. My third question is, you said, and that is interesting for me as the representative of the business division who has a number of department chairs, you said you are in favor of retiring the workload factor. Could you please elaborate a little bit on this? Because this is what our system is.
I already did. I elaborated on that a lot. Christina, can you go back in our notes and remind her what I said?
I'm sorry, Ray. I was relying on the recording. I had to step out for 5 minutes,
No,
but
totally.
I will clean up the minutes this afternoon and
No,
send them
no,
out.
no, Christina. No, I was only asking that so that I wasn't the one to repeat myself. I just wanted outside confirmation that I was not the one that said that. Ellen, are you raising your hand so that you can share what I
I
said?
took some notes. So, and this might not be the extent of what you said, but this is what I took, is that the workload factors, the multipliers should be retired because they are not clear or transparent, and you would like a more quantifiable approach to determining the actual workload. And an example you gave was that there's a particular multiplier for assessment that doesn't that doesn't explicitly address like how many students are being assessed or whatever. So someone else might have more to add, but that's what I wrote down.
No, thank you, Ellen. That reinforces the point that I did explain why I thought they should be retired. I don't want to spend any more of this meeting time talking about those factors. Rather, where I would like to go with this is a way forward as a Senate body. I think that we are way bogged down in minutia. I find it incredibly ironic that we are literally discussing what words say and what they mean, when a huge point I'm trying to make is that we currently have an AP that says one thing and we're not following that. So I just find this to be slightly ironic. So could you please ask your remaining questions? There have been many others with their hands raised that are.
I actually was still in question 3. I tried to ask if you could elaborate about the workload factor, and if you have an idea already how you would like to replace them. That was my question.
Well, I think my answer is to quantify them. How many students are being assessed? How many times a semester? How long does the assessment take? Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
For the assessment coordinator. So would you envision this?
No, not for the assessment coordinator. That's one of the factors for the department chair stipend. I wasn't talking about the assessment coordinator. I just mentioned that factor as an example of one of the many factors that goes into this really convoluted calculation that is not quantifiable.
Okay, thank you.
Patricia,
you've been incredibly patient. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say that since at the very beginning of his talk, his comments, Jamie conceded that the FA was in agreement that we would change the membership, that I don't think we need to discuss this any further. I also want to say that I think his point that the Senate also had inconsistencies in its own documents, that we need to acknowledge that and move on with it. And I think the key thing we need to decide is, are we going to amend 7210 to reflect existing practice, or are we going to keep it the way it is and amend the committee? Sounds like we have consensus on that item. So I to address some of Jamie's other questions if I can. In terms of the directive from Dr. Goswami to make a cut to Ntcc and these recommendations, I would actually like to concur with Ray that the two did not have a direct a trigger effect on each other. But what did come to the fore is how, given that kind of directive, Ntcc was really not in a position where it could do that, because so much of the work that NTC, because it wasn't in the, because of the things that we are recommending. In other words, because of a lack of annual audits, because we did not know how many of these positions were still valid. It required NTCC to engage in a year's worth of work, which I understand was quite contentious. When members of NTCC tried to reach out to get information about existing positions that are stipended, people literally threatened to lawyer up. So, you know, it wasn't cause and effect, but it was certainly there was a correlation between the timing on this. So in terms of the workload factors, you guys put your finger on the toughest possible challenge here. And Jamie is absolutely right. There's three parts of it. There's a job description, which I have to say most of these positions do not have. What they have is a request to NTCC where we would send them, and I was chair of NTCC for 2 years, so I have some experience with this. We would send people a list of workload factors and ask them to rate their positions based on these workload factors. But there was no actual job description. So while we have not thoroughly explored this, our thought was that as job descriptions became more standardized, the need for workload factors for every single position could become more like what we do with department chairs. There's one job description for lab supervisors, and they update that as time goes. And what the role of the what the FA would be is to negotiate the conversion factors. In other words, how much are you going to get if you get $1,440 in stipend, how are you going to convert that to a TLU? So I think that I just want to reiterate, we can talk about the committee composition, but you know, we all share responsibility for what is there and how we've proceeded. So, you know, let's get this figured out so we can make recommendations to the EVP. And by the way, that underscores all of this. This is the EVP's committee. She gets to decide who's on it and who's not, but she's bound by the AP. So that's why we have to have this conversation. The timeline is correlative, but not cause and effect. We think if these reforms had been in place, or these updates had been in place, that NTCC would have been in a much stronger position to actually say yes, no, or maybe so when the superintendent gave his directive. And that if we do these types of things, then NTCC would be, because we would actually know what the jobs are, who's getting paid, and are they getting paid for a job they're actually doing. And the other thing I want to say is that I hope that nothing in what we're saying here is meant to in any way shed, from my perspective, this is my perspective, because I've been on NTCC. I went to 2 years worth of NTCC meetings, and there are only 4 faculty members on that committee, but they are extremely hardworking faculty members. Who do very detailed, finite work. So I don't mean this in any way to be casting criticism or aspersions from my experience on those existing faculty members. As a matter of fact, later, I would actually like to recommend that longstanding members of NTCC be included in the committee membership, either as members or as resources, because I think we need some background as we move ahead with this. And that is actually all of my notes. The idea of transferring, the idea of what would be the continued role of this exact committee, what would be the role of planning and resources, which used to do a lot of this kind of work. Those are the things that we can continue to have conversations with the EVP on. So I don't know if that helped things at all to clarify things, but that is the thinking. I think I'm summarizing the thinking of most of the steering members who are putting these recommendations forward.
Thank you, Patricia. We have Robbie, and then Ellen, and then Anna.
I just want to reiterate support that I've heard here and there that I think it's kind of crazy that we're referencing a former policy. We have a policy right now that says what the committee makeup should be, and I can't imagine resistance to that, especially when, I don't know if everybody went through the links very carefully, but it's like I guess you can't call it a paper trail, but there's like a paper trail of changes that were made to our AP, and it's hard to imagine questioning the precedence of that AP or the power that AP has over this. And it's come up, I've lost track of what meeting it came up in, whether it was steering or Senate or something else, but it's been pointed out that people who are getting these stipends should not be the people to decide who gets these stipends. And recently the NTCC asked people, like, how much work do you do for these stipends? And without naming any names or details, I mean, I know that there are people who claim that they work more than full time just on this little bit. And I don't think that, as a quantitative person also, though, that is, that constitutes data that we can rely on. We've got to move to what our current AP says, with the committee made up of people who are not getting these stipends.
Thanks for that perspective, Robbie. Ellen.
Sorry. Few things. One, I want to thank you, Ray, for really making clear that when we're in this room, we need to speak as senators. As someone who's also on the FA board and the Senate, I'm often in spaces where my knowledge and expertise in one of those areas could bleed into a space designed for the other area. And I do think it's really important for us to keep those roles clear. So I am speaking as a senator here. And the things I wanted to emphasize are, yeah, I agree we should be complying with the current AP language. And I have concerns about any official document referencing a former policy that is known to be outdated. But the 2 points that I want to make, I support this recommendation from steering in general. And specifically, I wanted to point out that I do think it's very important that the updated membership of NTCC should not include people who are getting NTCC stipends. I think that's an important thing to do to avoid any potential conflict of interest. And I also think that the idea of developing a process where PNR or another committee could be consulted around this is really valuable. And the main reason I support that is because I think it's really important to have divisional representation on these decisions, so that there are people from all divisions having an overview. There's an overview that includes that knowledge, that divisional knowledge, when assessing what are the pedagogical needs for non-teaching work, for the work part of it. So I think that's crucially important, that there's some divisional oversight in this.
Thank you for that, Ellen. Let's see, we have Anna, Jenny, and then Pam. And then we do have a timed item. Anna?
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that I also generally support what the recommendations state in the updates here that y'all have provided. As a part-timer who doesn't benefit from NTCC stipends, I'm having a hard time understanding what is driving, I guess what I'm gathering, again, as a part-timer who isn't part of these conversations in any other space, I'm having a hard time understanding what the perceived concern is around creating more transparency in these stipends. I think that is something that we should be striving for. If somebody asked me what I did with my day today, I would be able to say, this is how I earn my money. And I feel like that should be something that is explicit and easy to access. Additionally, I really want to emphasize the point of not having people who stand to benefit from the outcomes of that committee serve on that committee in any capacity. We all have access and relationships to each other. I think we can invite people to come and speak to a committee if we have questions around historical perspectives. But I just wanted to emphasize and contradict Patricia's request to include longstanding members, because I don't think being a member of something for a long time, and particularly something that sounds like it's been pretty problematic because you've been there for a long time, is a sufficient enough reason to be part of it. So again, someone who doesn't benefit from this and who is pretty removed from all of these conversations, it's really important to me to be able to trust that the people that are spending the money of the college, especially again as a part-timer who will directly potentially be impacted by how this money is spent, I want to be able to trust the people in that space and feel like I'm also being represented in that space. Saying it in the meeting.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Anna. And something I do want to say in response to what you said, something that I've been incredibly frustrated with as a collective conversation with especially full-time faculty, is that this was just a suggestion from Dr. Goswami, and I feel as though since October, November, I have been very explicit with the faculty body that layoffs are coming. You know, we are in a very bad place economically, and I tried to point out that $125,000 in these non-teaching compensation stipends seems like this is my personal opinion. It feels like this is low-hanging fruit. And to me, $125,000 is literally somebody's base salary plus benefits. So I even tried to say in the Ntcc meetings that, you know, we could potentially save a whole person's job with this money. And I was met with resistance with that remark. And that was very frustrating to me, because now here we are in March and we just had 3 people be laid off. And so I know faculty feel as though that we have done our part because the CERP was a big part of us, but I also felt like because of the nature of these, that this is some place where we could look to also contribute to the structural deficit. I am very frustrated that we've had several months as a faculty body to do this work, and we just haven't been able to do it. And now we're at a place where it's going to be done for us, I think. And so I'm as the academic senate president, I am very frustrated by that outcome, because I felt like I've been trying to get that going since October.
Right.
And I just couldn't make it happen. Anna, was that Anna? Yeah?
Yes. I just wanted to make one additional point of clarification.
Sure, go ahead.
I think people should be compensated for the work that they're doing. So I just want to be clear that I'm not trying to say Ntcc stipends should not exist. I just think there needs to be clarity around what work people are being compensated for. And again, as a part-timer who goes above and beyond and does a lot of uncompensated work on this campus, and also acknowledging a lot of our staff members who do a lot, our classified staff who do a lot of uncompensated work, it would be helpful to just have transparency around that. So I just wanted to be clear. I do not think uncompensated work is what we're moving toward, simply articulating what work you're being compensated for.
Yeah, that reminder, Anna, like, I think it's important for me to say that same sentiment as well, because I don't want anybody in this room to think that I have a certain opinion about this. It's just that, I mean, I do have lots of opinions about this, clearly, but yes, I think you're absolutely right. Like, I don't want there to be uncompensated work, but I do think that there needs to be transparency around this. There is no doubt that there's lots of people on this campus that are hardworking, full-time faculty that are receiving these included, for sure. Okay, thanks so much for that, Anna. I just want to remind everybody that Anna is a part-time senator for credit, and I'm reminding you all of that to say that Our part-time senators, credit and non-credit, do not benefit from things like tenure like the rest of you and the security that comes with that. So I really appreciate her saying it in the meeting, as we always try to do. Jenny and then Pam, and then we should pause on this subject and move on to our last agenda item. Jenny?
Yeah, here to what Anna and Ellen and Robbie were all speaking about with respect to transparency, conflicts that have existed in this committee makeup. And Ray, just following up on what you were saying, that $125,000 just keeps like flashing at me. And given that this committee has had what, a year or months to look for this low-hanging fruit, but we've identified all these conflicts with the committee itself, I'm wondering, first of all, like, I'm feeling uncomfortable about these cuts coming when the committee has been not slow, but ineffective at identifying where these cuts can be made. And now we're being put in a position where if nothing's been decided, someone's going to come in and do it for us, right? And even though it's called, I mean, you were calling it low-hanging fruit, and I think there are probably stipends that could certainly be cut. I mean, there are other stipends that could be put in jeopardy, right? That could be irrevocably damaged, like major cuts to, let's say, chair stipends, right? Which would affect every department, which I would think people want to protect, and Senate wants to have a voice and protect, or a committee like PNR would work to protect. And so I'm worrying now that we're going to see that jeopardized. I know that in previous talks and what was said at the town hall and at Senate was that things like chair stipends in particular were going to be protected. But if we now aren't in a position where we can adequately defend them, what's going to happen to something like that?
Before I answer you, I want to make sure that that wasn't a rhetorical question and a statement. Was that a direct question to me?
Well, part of it is just my advocacy for wanting to make sure that Senate and ideally in the future committees like PNR will have a role, because I think this would affect all of us across campus.
Yeah.
But if we are handing over this work in the very near future, I don't know, do we have a commitment to protect? This would be a direct question. Do we have a commitment to protect certain stipends? And I would think about, I mean, especially representing a huge department where our chair has 25, 30 adjuncts, our chair stipend's going to be protected.
Okay. All right. So thank you for asking that. So before I can answer that, please let me say one thing. Whenever I say things, it's like, oh, like when they're repeated back to me or when I read them in the channels, I'm like, oh my God. So one of the things I'm saying, oh my God, about right now is this idea of low-hanging fruit. Let me explain why I said that for everyone. I personally consider NTCC stipends, some of them, not necessarily all of them, to be low-hanging fruit for the following reasons. One, I was very worried and motivated about potential layoffs. So in my mind, I was thinking about equity, thinking about positionality, thinking about the faculty body, especially full-time faculty body who earns these almost exclusively, except for like the coaching stipends. And maybe a few adjunct positions here or there. I was thinking about like, this is extra compensation for extra work, but I thought to myself, finding adjustments to address the structural deficit there would be so much better than layoffs, which clearly have been awful and painful, especially for our staff, especially for the morale on this campus, as well as an unspoken a group of people, which is our adjunct instructors who are no longer with us. And I don't mean that by like they passed away, like they didn't get assignments, right? And there's a large number of adjuncts who are not on the schedule this spring, and that will probably continue to happen. As well as other things like, you know, I've heard whispers of the FA or other people saying, well, why don't you cut our benefits? Why don't you cut our salary? So that's why I'm calling these particular things the low-hanging fruit, because in my opinion, the few get these, and can we find the money there to address some of our issues? That's my personal opinion. Thank God we all work in a governance structure. Thank God there's committees that make these decisions, because if you disagree with that assessment, there's a process for this. What I'm also trying to say, Jenny, is yeah, I have been very frustrated with, with the way the current process goes as somebody who was an outsider, who stepped into the role of chairing this committee, who walked into a space where people have been on the committee for literally decades. And a lot of the reasons why we do things are because that's the way they've always been done. That doesn't resonate well with me. And also I feel as though that, you know, we could have been more efficient in our work. There could have been a bigger sense of urgency to do this work. Because I tried to say every which way I can that layoffs are coming. Okay, so now that I've explained this idea of low-hanging fruit, let me address your question. I am very conflicted at this point in time. I have said repeatedly, and I have even written documents that have been attached to the Senate, that department chair stipends will not be touched. The work of the committee, the path we took, the thing that we voted on as a committee and the thing that we pursued to find the cuts was not effective, efficient, nor productive. It got us approximately $25,000 worth of savings. I was told that I could contact people's lawyers if they wanted me to answer it. I was told that this was a request and they didn't have to answer it, and basically to get lost. That's not true across the board, of course. So I received legitimate answers from some, which is where the $25,000 savings came from. The rest either ignored me or were extremely confrontational about the request. So because this path we took as a committee went this way and we were only able to find $25,000, there is a proposal that is being discussed, that we are thinking about, that we are looking at, that some numbers are being tossed around around the recalculation of department chair stipends. And I am at a really awkward point in my leadership because all along I've said department chair stipends will not be touched. And now we are thinking about it. And I just want to make sure that I'm really careful and clear with that language. I hope everybody heard me, that we are thinking about it. No committee decisions have been made. But since you asked the question, Jenny, I do think that it is important for me to say that yes, at our last meeting, that was presented as a possibility. Approximately $90,000 of savings was proposed with a new calculation of the department chair stipend. And if you combine that with our savings found the other way, and then letting all the other stipends go, which I do not think is an equitable process at all. It disadvantages those that were open and honest and fair, and allows those that were mean and confrontational to what benefit, I guess, financially. So if the committee decides on this path at our next meeting, I have to say, because you asked the question, that yes, that is a route we may end up pursuing.
I can save my question for the timed item after the timed item.
Pam, hold on. Jenny just gave me a thumbs down, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I just shared information about committee work. And I'm not indicating where anyone on the committee feels about that. Like, we haven't even voted, so it just could be like the committee hates it and we voted down. And this never happens. And then I got you all riled up for no good reason, right? But you asked the question, so I wanted to provide it. Pam, that being said, yeah, we can, if you're willing, you're the next person on the docket, so we can come back to your question should the Senate want to continue today's meeting, because it is 4:55. We have one item that we haven't gotten to. I feel like we haven't concluded. I don't feel like we're in a good place with this item. So I'm just wondering, where is the Senate at? Should we conclude our meeting with the last 5 minutes? Should we let Pam and Jamie get to their questions? Should we go back to our resolution? What is the pleasure of the Senate at this point? Anyone want to share their thoughts? Extend the meeting by a half an hour?
I move to extend the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.
I'll second that.
Sure, by 30 minutes.
By how much time, Ellen? 15?
By 30 minutes.
By 30 minutes. Okay, there's a motion on the table to extend the meeting. Robbie seconded it. We are extending the meeting. There is a motion on the table to extend the meeting by 30 minutes. Is there any discussion on that?
Just to point out that we will need a 2/3 vote to extend the meeting, and that's 11 yeas.
You for that. I'm just trying to get the Senate membership up. So we need 11 yeas to extend today's meeting. Okay, so your votes are yes, no, or abstain. Cornelia.
Yes.
Counselor Jen.
Sorry, wrong button. Nay.
Nay. Ellen.
Yes.
Jenny.
Yes.
Patricia.
No.
Michelle.
No.
Dee Dee. Devana, still with us? Pam?
Yes.
Oh,
Dee Dee
that-
just said yes. Dee
That's
Dee just
better.
said yes, and now I say yes.
Okay, so that's 5. Thanks, Dee Dee. Kathy?
No.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Ruth, I know I have to buy you a drink. What's your vote?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Russell?
No.
Trisha?
No.
Anna?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 11. What did you say, Patricia? I forget.
11 yay votes is 2/3 of the Senate the Senate majority. So the vote is to extend the meeting.
Okay, got it. All right, so now we are going to extend the meeting. Pam, Jamie, I know you still have questions about the current item that we're on, but for right now, we're going to move on to our timed item. And then if there's time at the end, we'll come back for your questions. Okay, so item 8.2, addressing social emotional needs around COVID. So I drafted the Senate resolution on addressing social emotional needs around COVID. So I really hope that you already read this. So if you remember the conversation last time, or the proposal that came through our request to agendize items was, can we honor the grief that so many in our Latina, Latinx community are facing because of COVID deaths and illness affecting them disproportionately. Since that time, I know that this wasn't discussed at the last meeting, but I wanted to include in this resolution addressing the anti-Asian racism and rhetoric that so many are facing in our community as well. So again, I hope you read this previously. Basically, the whereases are calling out the truths that are happening, that some of our faculty are hearing about, that are working with grieving students. They're working with Asian students that are on the receiving end of racism in different ways, whether it's overt prejudice or firsthand experiences of confrontational situations. The other whereases are specifically linking to, LA Times articles about those instances. And so then the resolved are that we will create a task force that does not have to be faculty, that can be made up of many that are concerned about this topic, whether it be faculty, staff, administrators, to come together to try and figure out a way that we can support our students. Melinda Garandara is very, I think I still screwed that up, has been very creative with a number of different things that we can do. She has supplied a number of different ways that we can take this to honor the victims and center our Latina, Latinx community. And I recently had a conversation with somebody from the International Students Office, and they were very interested in supporting our Asian and Asian American students in different ways. So should you guys like this, we can move it to action and then vote to approve it. Should you not like it, we can talk about updates that you want to do. Should you want to move it to action and include edits and then approve that, we can do that as well. So where are folks at with this particular resolution? Jamie, your hand is up from before, right?
Yes, sorry, should I put it down until we go back?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're driving around with your blinker on. I'm
No,
like,
I
is
understand.
he turning? Is he asking? What is he doing? I don't know. Okay, yeah, I'll come back to you, Jamie.
I have no say, but this is a great resolution.
Cool.
Thanks. I like it.
I was gonna say, are we in discussion stage or do we motion to approve it or accept it?
You are the Senate body. I am just the driver. So what do you say, Pam?
I make a motion, we approve the resolution. I'm tired. Resolution.
I'll second that.
Wait, hold on. Point of order. Pam and Robbie, it's in discussion, so we need a motion to move it to action. And then once it's in action, we can accept it and approve it. Does that make sense?
I motion we move it to action.
There we go.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to move this to action. Is there any discussion?
Only a point of order that we need a simple majority in order to move it to action. And a simple majority in this case will be 9.
Which will be 9. Excellent. Thanks, Patricia. All right, so motion on the table to move this to action. Is there any more discussion for the good of the group? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, so roll call voting. You may vote yes, you may vote no, you may abstain. Cornelia?
Yes.
Counselor Jen?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Yes. Patricia?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Dee Dee?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Russell?
Russell was having a problem with his audio, and we agreed that if we could hear him, he would abstain.
Okay, perfect. I am so glad that was taken care of. Okay, so Russell is abstaining. Trisha?
Yes.
And Anna?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So we have 16 yeses and 1 abstention, I think. Okay, and that's enough to move this to action. So this item is now in action. And
I
now
move to approve.
there we go. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to approve as published.
I second it.
Dr. Tara Carter seconds it. Opportunity for discussion. Ellen?
I just have some clarifying questions about the last paragraph.
Okay, yeah.
And specifically about the dates and where it says the Academic Senate is charged with providing the support needed to complete this. I assume complete this means creating the task force rather than, or the work of the task force.
Creating the task force and then having the task force come up with something.
By the end of March, okay.
Yeah, well, okay, so the task force will convene like immediately and have something by the end of the March, and then we'll carry it out by the end of April.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me share again. Melinda, our adjunct faculty in ethnic studies has like wheels are in motion, right? Which is why this item was agendized. And so at the Senate table, it's my opinion that like we're not the best body to be creative, right? So that's why I created this resolution. This is the most bureaucratic thing ever, right? I created this resolution so that we could formalize a committee to do the work that Melinda like wants to do, right? So I didn't want to do that in the Senate space, but I wanted the Senate to formalize it. So this resolution is just like this silly bureaucratic formalization of this, but because we already have ideas and people working on this, that's what I wanted us to approve and say, yes, please go do that, and we'll give you the support needed. So I hope that makes sense. In our weird shared governance world, it does, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve this. Robbie, I believe it was Robbie that made it, and Tara seconded it. Do I have that correct? Yep. All right, so with that, we'll again go back to our roll call voting. That was Siri talking to my baby. That's weird. Okay, all right, so here we go. So you may vote yes, no, or abstain on the motion to approve this resolution to do this, to formalize this work. Cornelia?
Yes.
Counselor Jen?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Jenny Baxton?
Yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Dee Dee?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yep.
Ruth?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Russell, if he's available?
Sorry about the last vote, and yes.
Awesome. I'm so glad you got your audio back, Russell. Trisha?
Yes.
And Anna?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to point out that because Russell's audio came back, that unanimous vote to do this really important work, or at least to support it around our students. So I just want to say thank you all for having that really bright spot in today's meeting, which is otherwise a hard and tough conversation. So thank you all for that. I think you all should be really proud. I'm really proud, and I look forward to helping those interested in this get some resources to do that, whether that be political support or resources or something. And I look forward to you hearing more about this. So I will make sure to put a call out to the faculty body to say, hey, if you're interested in this, please join us. And so hopefully we'll be hearing more about this soon. So with that, and with the last 20 minutes of our meeting, we will now go back to item 8.1. And the hands raised in order that they were raised was Pam Gunther and Jamie Campbell. So Pam, go ahead with your question at this time.
So one is just a, I don't know, maybe a clarifying question, not really, but what I agree with this sentiment about having concerns about conflict of interest. And that would mean potentially department chairs could not sit on the committee. I have concerns about in practice what that looks like, given that we have some departments that there is only one person in the department and they would be the department chairs. So then how would we have divisional representation? So I'm wondering if we need to think about that piece in some way. You know, do we want to make an exception for department chairs, or only an exception if they're the only person in their department, or something? So that, I guess that's a practical question.
So wait a minute, hold on, Pam. So divisions and departments aren't the same thing. I know they are math, but like Patricia is a department of one.
Yes.
Her own department chair, but she's in a bigger division, right? Okay. Does
Got
that
it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Does that clear up your question or concern?
Probably. It does though limit, you know, a lot of people from being on the committee. So that is something for us to think about. Unless we're going forward in the direction of having fewer department chairs, which I know is a separate conversation that is being discussed. The other question I have is, what is the role of the Senate body at large in giving input to the Senate reps that are on the current committee? So for instance, and this is personal opinion, I am not in favor of across the board cuts of any kind. So are we allowed to give you and our other Senate rep this sort of direction that we really want the committee to be thoughtful in the cuts and not allow across the board cuts to happen? Or is it just we're trusting you to make the best decision at the table, which I know is the case in many situations anyway, because things develop in real time. But I'm just wondering what the role is in giving input to that process that's happening currently at NTCC.
Do you want me to answer that, or was that rhetorical?
I was hoping for an answer, but if it turns out it was rhetorical,
no, it's okay. Could you just repeat like the question you specifically want answered?
Is there a place for Senate or other faculty as a general body to give input to what's happening at NTCC? So I will say that I have always found the NTCC committee to be this mysterious, like covert cloak and dagger kind of committee. Much of what we have been discussing this year is the most I've ever really known about the committee. Is there a way to, and I know that moving forward, the idea would be this committee would have divisional representation, but in this current short window time frame, is there some way for people to provide input to what's happening in that process outside of what we've already been doing?
Well, let me say this. I don't know that I have a straight yes or no question for you. I would hope so, yes, but it's been my experience that I am, because I'm new to the committee, that I feel very differently than others. And I feel as though that, that I sometimes am an island in my feelings. And so, for instance, I also feel as though this committee has not been historically extremely transparent. I also feel as though that perhaps certain historical things have not been perhaps equitable. And as such, I am also not in favor of an across the board lateral cut, which is why I am so frustrated that we didn't do our work more efficiently and quicker. And I am the chair of this committee. So clearly that responsibility relies on me. I am clearly an ineffective leader in this space. And that is just something that I have to own. So with that in mind, Pam, what I'm trying to say is, I hope that the conversations happening around this committee have been very illuminating for the other members of NTCC that are perhaps here today. I know I see a number of deans on today's participation list. And so I'm hoping that that new voices are now being heard by committee members and by those that have power, positions of power. That being said,
I recognize that the timeline is potentially too short for others to have input here. I guess I just was.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is what I'm so frustrated by, and I'm trying to be very careful with my words so that I don't regret them later. I would hope there's an option. I hope there is input here. It has not been my experience that input has been received previously. I will also say that, let me say this. I don't think the problems that I saw, that I feel about this committee have been properly vetted in a public space. I think I've said at Senate previously that I wanted this NTCC conversation to happen much more openly, much sooner. For instance, I wanted to bring to the Senate and the faculty body all of the different stipends and the amounts that people receive. And I was told that that was the third rail and not to do that. And everybody's going to lose their mind and it's going to be faculty on faculty. And so I've been advised more than once not to even go there. I feel very differently about that, but I have to take the recommendations from others, right? Like it's not my unilateral decision, even though sometimes I wish that it was. So I just wish that, like, I just wonder how much of the faculty body even understands what we mean by a leadership stipend versus a department chair. I wonder if people even understand the amounts that we're talking here. And I don't mean to be paternalistic about it. I'm not saying that people can't understand it. I'm saying that we haven't had the opportunity to have this conversation. I was hoping that faculty would get motivated to have these conversations much earlier and much sooner. But for some reason, faculty was really not believing that layoffs were coming. And I think I know why, right? Historically, they never came. Like, they're not going to come this time. I have very much felt like I was Chicken Little in a lot of the public spaces that I occupy. To me, it was very obvious for a number of reasons that they were coming. I think that it was very silly for people not to realize that, yeah, 2021 is not what we had before. We have a different administration. We have a different president. We are living through a global pandemic. We are on the cusp of a major economic downturn if we're not already there. So I'm just surprised that people weren't more riled up. When I've tried to broach this situation, it seems as though faculty want this and aren't willing to give it up. And so because of that, I think the committee felt that that was important to save this at all costs for, quote, the faculty. And so here we are a few weeks out from our deadline, and we've proverbially spun our wheels. That's just how I feel. Did I answer your question at all, or did I just?
Yes, I'm good.
Just like talk.
I'm good.
Okay. I don't even remember your question. Okay, Jamie.
It was probably half rhetorical because I know the timeline's too short for any real input, but.
Yeah. I mean, like, Pam, let me say this, like, I hope there's a chance for input, but like, there's only 4 faculty members on this committee, and other than myself, I don't feel as though any of us have like asked the faculty body what they want to do with this. We've just convened the meetings. We've had a couple, they're about an hour and a half. Sometimes they take longer, and it just seems like we're all riding on assumptions. And I didn't get a lot of feedback from faculty from the town halls. It seemed as though people were like, yeah, don't touch them. I get one, so please don't touch them. So I just feel as though like this really wasn't a collective conversation. I don't feel as though that that's what it's been, which has been what it was. Jamie's hand went back down. So
I thought you just called on me, so I wanted to lower it, but I just have a sentence I want to say. I don't have a question, so I'll
go for
be
it.
very
Somebody
fast.
shut me up, please. Go for it, Jamie.
You just mentioned earlier, you said very quickly something about rumors that the FA is talking about pay cuts and cuts to our benefits and things like that. And that's not really true. There haven't been any serious discussions about that at FA board meetings. And in conversations with other FA members, the only things that I've had to say or heard other people say is resistance to across the board pay cuts and to decreases to our benefits. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Because it was shared with me in open session that was a suggestion so that we didn't have to lay people off, was that we would go to a reduction in benefits and
there might have been people saying like I have said in private conversations, we have to weigh certain things, right? And I emphasized at a board meeting recently after I watched CPC, which I didn't attend, but I watched it afterwards, the need to communicate with our members about what their priorities are for us. And we're planning on having our own plenary to get information from our members. So it might have been a conversation like that, where someone's saying, well, we might have to choose between X or Y. And one of those was, a pay cut or faculty less, something like that. But aside from conversations like that, there's been no formal discussion about it, no agenda items or proposals or anything like that. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, no, thank you for that. Yeah, I definitely don't want to misrepresent things. Good, thank you for that. Ruth?
So I'm along the lines of what Pam just brought up about providing input to you folks. So as a senator representing 7 departments with 7 chairs, I think it's incredibly important to let you know, you, Ray, and also Kathy, our Senate reps there, that I am definitely against reducing chair stipends and against a unilateral cut as well. That would be, there are better use of those funds. For example, I know I've seen some stipends that aren't justified anymore, right? So we haven't audited these, we haven't assessed these. There are other non-chair stipends that we absolutely should go in and assess. And our chairs are already overburdened. We're regularly asking them to do more, to take on more and more work. And there are clearly non-teaching stipends out there that we need to identify the extent of the work. We need to come up with job descriptions. We need to rank them and maybe potentially even eliminate them. But the chair stipends are certainly not those. If there's any stipend out there that is justified, they are the chair stipends.
And I just want to clarify, Ruth, are you a department chair?
I am not. I'm a senator representing Senate.
No. I meant, no. I know that. I'm asking outside of the Senate,
so
are
no.
you a department chair?
I am not.
Okay. Robbie?
I support fully what Ray said. I also personally believe that department chair stipends are the only ones that should be beyond consideration. But as a person who does not get any NTCC stipend, I don't know where the line is between the extra teaching work that every one of us faculty does and what we get paid for. And, I suppose that's a transparency issue, but that would be my question for anybody on this committee, or if this committee is now sort of gone, and we're going to follow our current AP and make a new, develop a new strategy for solving this problem, that would be one of my first questions. What constitutes work that we all have to do? It's in our contract that we have to serve on a committee or do some campus service. What constitutes the line between that and what we get paid for? And just a little personal addition to that, I filled in for somebody on sabbatical once, and I was a lab coordinator. And I swear the work that I did that semester probably amounted to a dozen or two emails. And I got paid, you know, between $1,000 and $2,000 for that. So I would want to know this. I would want to be able to look up if some new situation arose. I'd be able to want to look up what are the criteria for which somebody's extra work is just what we're supposed to do versus worthy of an NTCC stipend. And so that's my comment. And then my question is that given what's been identified in our current AP and the fact that our former way of doing NTCC is out of date and obsolete, like where do we go from here? Can we consider the current NTCC to be disbanded? Or if not, like right now disbanded, when will it be disbanded? That's not a rhetorical question.
So I don't necessarily have, well, I do have an answer for that. So let me explain this. So what we brought forward were recommendations from the Senate Steering Committee, and that is what we are deliberating now. So the only people that have, you know, said, these are our recommendations, are Senate Steering. So now they're in front of the Senate. I'll remind everyone that the person that owns this committee is the Executive Vice President, Pamela Ralston. So all we have done today is brought forth a document that Senate Steering produced for the Senate to consider as recommendations to the Executive Vice President. So as at the top of this discussion, what I was trying to say was there's a number of things that can happen with this. The Senate can also endorse this, so they can morph from just Senate Steering into Senate recommendations, and we can put those forth to the EVP. She can then accept them or completely ignore them. That is well within her purview, because this committee, well clarified in AP, reports to her. And I'm using she, her pronouns because our current EVP is, those are her pronouns. However, it's to the EVP in general, whomever that may be at any given time. So all we have is a document for recommendations. I think it would come as a stronger recommendation if it came from the Senate as opposed to Senate Steering. But should Senate Steering want that, we can just put them to the EVP right now. In terms of the timeline of the work, let me point this out to Senate now. The time is now 5:27 p.m. We have approximately 3 minutes in tonight's meeting left. Our next meeting is not until March 31st. We have not endorsed this document. I feel as though we're not in a place that we're ready to endorse it. And so I can't see a motion happening in the next couple of minutes to move it to action and then approve it. So that means a couple of things might happen. Senate Steering will agendize it on the March 31st meeting so that we can talk about it again. And then we can do something with it then, motion it, approve it, kill it, say we hate it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of possibilities there, right? But let me point this out. By that meeting, the Dr. Goswami's timeline is done. So the input for this conversation was never supposed to be about nuance and APs.
Sorry,
like
I couldn't hear what you said.
Siri. It was never supposed to be this entrenched conversation about what does a comma mean, what does a former district policy mean. That wasn't supposed to be the conversation today, but that's where we landed. What I'm trying to say is the work of NTCC is either going to go forward or not. Hopefully people heard what the Senate discussed today, the will of the faculty here. Maybe some of faculty that have heard this conversation today will reach out to the members, the faculty members or the area deans on NTCC and voice their opinions. That would probably be a really good use of people's time so that the NTCC committee members don't go with their own biases, but truly represent the bodies for which they represent. Yeah, so to answer your question, Robbie, like, the only thing I really heard today was that there was support to match the makeup of the committee to the current AP. Other than that, I did not hear support for very much. I don't know where that will go. It's not the Senate's, it's definitely not the Senate's purview to say. We're just pointing out publicly that we're not currently following our AP.
Well, so I sort of disagree with that last sentence you said. If it's our job, according to our current AP, if it's our job to determine the pedagogical value of various tasks that are getting NTCC stipends, and then moving it on to someone else, then we ought to be doing our job, right?
Well, wait a minute. So that is the proposal. That is not what's in AP, right? And AP is what governs us.
Right. But this proposal that we're discussing is that we follow AP, whatever it is.
Which we have not passed. So we are not a body that currently has the authority to say we must follow the APs. Does that make sense?
No.
APs
Sorry.
aren't ours, they're the districts. Administrative procedure.
Right. So it's all up to what Pamela tells us to do, is what you're saying?
It's not Pamela. This isn't personal. It's policy, it's procedure, right? So,
right, but the EVP owns this committee and the AP says that it ought to do XYZ.
Correct.
So what do we do?
We as a Senate need to conclude because it's 5:31 p.m. But don't kill me, Robbie, I'm sorry. But we are now aware that our practice does not follow procedure. And I would hope that, I don't know, I'll just stop there. I don't know. But we are now past the time that we said we would go to. So with that, I think we need to have a motion to end the meeting. Perhaps we can do that by acclamation. Does anybody have that motion for us? Okay, we're just gonna sit here for the rest of the night.
I guess I'm just.
I don't want to make the motion because I
know
Go
everybody
ahead.
wants to leave, but I guess I'm feeling a little uncomfortable that we're just leaving this where it is. So I'm conflicted right now.
Patricia?
I really want to talk about this some more because I'm very vested in pretty much everything in those recommendations, but I'm really vested in the idea that we need job descriptions, which I think Robbie will address the concern you raised about openness. Where do you draw the line? Well, you draw the line with a job description, what goes over and above. It can be done and it's a big amount of work. So I realize we built a very ambitious timeline into these recommendations. I'll take responsibility for that, but I think there's a lot more we need to say, a lot more we need to hear. And I think we need to bring it back to our next meeting.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we need to conclude the meeting.
And re-agendize it.
And of course, re-agendize it. But I got the impression Pam was feeling dissatisfied tonight.
Well, yes. But I mean, that's every day. So give me a break.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Ruth. Second?
Second.
Excellent. So please unmute yourself. Let's vote by acclamation.
Aye.
Thank you
Aye.
all for your time and your energy and your hard work. These are very difficult conversations. These are never easy. challenging the status quo is something that is exceptionally hard and induces strong emotions in people. So I hope that you all, oh, is there a baby?
There's a baby.
Christina's.
There's a baby in the house.
Oh,
Oh, look at that.
Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I'm waking her up. She's still like, "What are you doing, Mom?"
Aw.
So there we go. Wasn't that a nice place to end? Thanks for that, Christina. So much better than my ending. Okay, well,
Congrats.
have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.